Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the 331 Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Dawes, and I have a very special guest this month. Born at Royal Canadian Armed Forces base in Germany. He is half French Canadian and half Cree Métis and raised in Maple Ridge, BC. This gentleman excelled in high school and got a bachelor's degree in history and French at Simon Fraser University. He went on to become a teacher in School District 42 for 17 years, as well as becoming a pastor and a reservist in the Canadian Armed Forces. But ladies and gentlemen, that's not why I have him on the show. Not only has he accomplished all of that, he decided to run as an MLA for the Maple Ridge Mission riding and winning his seat in 2009. He served 2 terms for the BC Liberal Party until he lost his seat in 2017. In 2019, he ran for the Conservative Party, winning his seat in the Ridge Meadows Mission riding, where he still sits. I'm talking about the Honourable Mark Dalton, my local member of Parliament. Mr. Dalton, sir, welcome to the 331 Podcast.
Great to be here, Chris. Nice intro.
Thank you.
The very sanitized version.
Well, yeah, I got all of it off Wikipedia and your site there.
Mhm.
So, it is an honor to talk with you today, sir. I have just the first question I wanted to ask you. Did you always want to run for office? And what was that feeling like when you first got elected in?
Boy, I think I've always been interested in leadership, but in different respects. Ran in politics in school in Quebec when I was there. So, started off that way. So always kind of organizational leadership, whether it be within the union, BCTF, or whether it was the Strata Council, or whether it was good old Strata. I won't go there. Or just so it's always kind of in the genes. And I got getting involved as far as volunteering when I was 24. That was back a few years when Mulroney first ran,
yeah.
and so I helped out with the campaign, and then provincially I was on board. So it's been there. I thought maybe down the road sometime, and then I did run for my first shot was in 2004 for the nomination. And so there's a 2-step process in order to become a member of Parliament. One is you got to win the nomination process, and for the most part, you have to win unless you're appointed. So I ran against Randy Camp, and he won and later became an MP. Anyways, that continued. Eventually, I got elected provincially, and as you mentioned, now federally for the past 6 years.
And what I've always liked seeing the videos of the campaign offices and everybody when they won, because it's always this big party. There's always a lot of celebrating and stuff. So, like, what was that moment?
Well, it's not always all celebrating. I've lost all.
That's true. So
yes,
that must be a bit of a letdown party, maybe.
but if I can interject here, the first time I did win,
Yes.
that was in 2009, for provincially, and I was behind by several hundred votes, maybe 600 votes. It was 11 o'clock at night, and I told the people that were with me, I said, you know what? Not all the numbers are in yet, but it's not looking very good. It's not impossible, but it's not looking very good. And so we still continued watching the television. Everybody left. There was, I think, 6 of us in the office, and 1 o'clock in the morning, a bunch of more votes came in, and it flipped it, and I won by 68 votes. So that was the first time
That's amazing.
that I won.
Wow.
So and then it goes to show how important the vote is, and also how important volunteering and getting involved makes a difference. You people think, oh, the world's going to go the way it's going to go. I can make no difference. It does make a difference. So volunteering, getting engaged on issues doesn't necessarily have to be attached to a political party, but just advocating for those things, it can make a difference. It can sway an election. In 2017, I lost to Bob Deeth of the NDP, but I just narrowly lost. And what happened was that not only did just this one seat made the difference of what government was in power. So the NDP came in power, and they've been in power ever since. So it just goes to show that I think that engagement and involvement is important, and politics does touch it touch everything we do, everything that's happening, whether it's the roads you drive on, the electricity, everything. Politics in one respect or another. Uh, there's influences, there's regulations, there's laws, and that is a problem. I think there's
Yeah.
sometimes a lot too many laws, but
Right. Yeah. No, that's so true. I mean, it does impact everybody. Everyone should have at least an eye on the ball, kind of thing of what's going on, right?
Mhm.
Um, Today is September 11th, and I think it was a
Mm.
profound event that has a lasting impact on everyone that was alive that day. We all remember where we were when we saw the towers get hit that morning. What do you remember about that?
Well, I was actually teaching in Pitt Meadow Secondary School, a grade 10 class, and one of my students, she showed me on the phone. She said, what's happened?" And it was quite stunning. Didn't believe it, but I think that everyone was in shock at that time, and it did change the world in
Yeah.
many respects. I mean,
Yeah.
you notice that prior to that, getting on the airplanes was never, the security was much more lax, going between the borders, so that was a big thing, and it really there's I think about, I don't know how many Canadians, I think a couple dozen that were killed then also. So it is, and then obviously afterwards we had Afghanistan, and Canada sent troops to Afghanistan in support of our obligations with the United States. And so it was very sobering, very sad, and real. And talking about big, I don't know, that was certainly a big impactful event. Yesterday we had an assassination of a political figure that was not elected. And when I'm speaking about Charlie Kirk, and he was speaking at a university in an outdoor gathering. I think there were thousands there, and he was. It was a political assassination. They didn't like what he had to say, so it was political in the sense of he was involved politically, but also he, it was on messaging that I really appreciated. But, we are in a democracy, and that's the one thing that I'm a member of the Conservative Party. We stand for the opportunity to be able to be able to discourse, to bring forth ideas rather than controlled speech, be able to bring things to engage, and that's so important.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people, I've a lot more people are actually, I would say, politically engaged or aware of politics, I would say, since COVID. Because they saw how, no matter where they were on the political spectrum, they realized how how government could influence, impact, control, what's happening in their lives. So so a lot of people were were traumatized during that time, in being feeling like they were forced to vaccinate. Now, the majority of the population were supportive of it, but there was a lot of people that weren't. A lot of people lost their jobs. And I mean, one of the things I was happy to do as an MP at the time is I wrote a letter to John Horgan, now deceased, and he Premier of British Columbia, and they were going to the NDP government was going to get rid of not get rid, but basically anybody that was in medical profession, private, chiropractors, naturopath, any nurses, anybody that was in the private sector, they were going to lose their ability to practice. They had already stopped them from practicing like in hospitals and nurses and others. And I wrote a letter to the Premier's open letter that went to the media, the Sun, and it was carried everywhere, and it made front pages. And the saying essentially this: I said, Mr. Horgan, fact is, the vaccines, your own health authorities say this: the vaccines do not prevent you from getting the disease.
That's right.
They also say, the health authority says, it doesn't prevent you from actually transmitting it. So it doesn't make whether or not you get it, doesn't make a difference for you as far as getting it or passing it on. Where it does make a difference is what upon your own self, your own physical health. And so that's a choice. We believe in free choice, in that your own health choice there. So forcing them to resign was and to give up the profession was inappropriate and unscientific. So what happened? There was an outcry, and actually that same night the letter came out. The government, Oregon, and they changed their policy on that. So it's just things like that. And what I'm hearing from individuals that I'm able to advocate for and bring forth legislation, bring forth things in the public realm to try to put some pressure on.
Yeah.
So I know this may be veering off of your questions, but
okay. I've researched. I've rehearsed it a little bit.
Yeah. So it's so that's some of the things of being able to use my position in a way to be able to impact maybe policies, both provincially or federally.
Yeah, it was interesting being a frontline worker in COVID. I mean, I was right there at the beginning with all the protection. I remember, first COVID patient I saw, and that was right at the beginning. There was no vaccines.
Yes.
A ton of fear, the shutdowns going on. And then as the thing progressed, then we were getting sicker and sicker people. People were dying. I was comparing it to being like Duck, Duck, Goose, like the game Duck, Duck, Goose, because you just don't know how the virus is going to affect you, So, people are like, oh, it's, only affecting like the elderly or this sort of population. Well, you just don't know, like.
You don't. And I got it actually right before it officially hit. I didn't know what it was, but I was so sick. And I told my wife, I said, this is not normal. I mean, I told my, I stay away from me for about a week, and so it separated.
Yeah.
And it, actually what happened is that I was in my party. I was the first to be talking within ourselves to say, listen, this is serious. Let's bring this up. I was asking to get an emergency debate on COVID. And because I felt could see what was happening elsewhere. And I thought I told the colleague next to me, one of the MPs, I said, no, don't be surprised if we're not sitting here I told him months, but I was thinking just a few weeks. And sure enough, actually, a couple of weeks later, it was all closed. He thought it was a bit, I was off, but I wasn't off.
Yeah.
And so I was very concerned about it. But with good reason, I think we need to be concerned and take health precautions. After a while, and I thought, this isn't impacting the general population the way that I thought, and that was me making out to believe. So that took a few months later down the road, and so I made, I put a tweet out that got national news, and it might have seemed insensitive in the sense of, but I thought, listen, I was starting to feel this is starting to be used in a political way. And that's the concern I have. Okay, there's medical science, have medical science and do it that way. But when politics start to get involved, politics are involved, but when it starts to be for the motivation of maybe seeing your polls rise because you're doing and spending all this money, we doubled our national debt during this time. And so doing all these things and we're paying the consequences now because they lost control of the budget. And only a portion of that was actually going to CERB and others. And a lot of it was a reason just to go to dole out the money and to just spend willy-nilly. And many things were contracts we're seeing right now, which were actually a way of pocketing money. They're going to liberal insiders and even MPs and others. It was really bad. It's just really bad. And so when you start to see that type of, I would say corruption, I would say scam, using public monies and just for, your own political reasons and not, what it causes is started to lead to a spiraling of obviously our debt. They're printing money. And then what happened is the cost of living. Inflation started to go out of control. People are really suffering. Our GDP, gross domestic product, is actually it's been flat ever since they've been in since they came in 2015, the Liberals. But we have been flat, and in respect to the rest of the world, we're going down. We used to be number 6. Now I think we're almost we're just going down. We're flat. And
GDP.
yeah, and our per capita income also. So it's young people, young families actually are struggling to make ends meet, and they say, well, on paper we should be doing really good, but it isn't. It's how much things cost. With inflation, because of the government overspending, led to a lot higher costs. Then it's not just how much you make; it's how much you keep. So that is the cost of living, but also taxation, which right now it's really tough.
True, but there's also issues of rent control as well, because over most people's half their paychecks are going towards either their mortgages or their rents, and it's affecting the elderly as well, because their pensions can't keep up because their rents are going up, and now they have to choose between electricity and food and these really hard choices. And I'm seeing more people on the streets that are elderly as well, at the bus homes too. So it's a big problem. I wanted to ask you about Charlie Kirk again. Did you ever meet Charlie?
No, I never met him.
Okay.
I mean, I followed him on Twitter.
Yeah.
I didn't. I mean, I think I watched some of this commentary for the first time, and maybe a couple of days ago, as far as some of the videos. So,
yeah, me too. I didn't even know about it. I was working yesterday, and my partner was working with said that, and I'm like, oh, I heard the name. I don't really know much about him.
Yeah.
But I really like what the governor of Utah said, where he said that it's a reminder, this is a husband and a father of 2 people. He's only 31 years old, and it takes guts to get up and speak your mind, and to kind of say, I'm not just going to be a backbencher. I'm going to kind of, get involved and trying to lend my voice, so regardless of where you are on the spectrum, I think that, nobody deserves to get gunned down like that,
No.
I've seen in the news that there's been more harassment of MPs in Ottawa and Parliament Hill. Have you experienced anything like that?
We have to take a lot more security measures here in this office.
In this office.
We've had threats happening even to my staff and all that. So some of this is political, and we even having events that we have to inform RCMP, and we had one event in summer where we had to make sure that the police that was there, and we haven't had that in the past. So increasingly we have to be aware. I know that, for example, even with my own party, I brought up among my colleagues, so we have a national caucus, and I was first to really emphasize to Pierre Poilievre that he needs to have security detail, because he was going to events without yet an aide, but that's not sufficient. And so now he does have that security, much more so. And I mean, whether it's Prime Minister, it's there's a lot of mental health issues that a lot crazy right there, but sometimes people get so that's the concern. If people take their emotional energy and bring it into violence, there's never a place for that. Yes, use that anger, that freshness, to be able to get involved and engaged in whatever activity right there to do it, to have your voice. But it is a concern, sometimes. I mean, yeah.
Do you find that people seem to be emboldened in a way to be able to think that it's okay? There seems to be a real shift. My wife and I seem to think that it really did start with COVID.
Yeah.
And there seems to be this after effect of it now, that it's pretty much in the rearview mirror, There's no real mask mandates anymore. There's no real vaccine mandates. So it's what's kind of got people, there seems to be a real sort of sense of anger.
Yeah, well, I think that there is. Well, people feel like they're being violated, their rights are being violated, and all that. That is certainly. I mean, you're allowed to demonstrate in Ottawa. Demonstrations are fine. That's fine. It's when you start to go and advocate violence, and that has been a problem also. I mean, one of them has been with the. I would say a lot of the Hamas supporting people are concerned with Gaza, and there has been a increased anti-Semitism, and so that's not proper. Yeah, you can have your thoughts, but to advocate and for the government to allow this sort of thing where you're advocating killing the Jews or or this, that is not proper. And I was concerned about some of the things happening with on the issue of, I guess, some of the freedoms and rights and that we have. Last year I brought forward a bill. It's called C-411. Is the anti-arson bill, and so that anti-arson bill had couple pieces to it. One related to forest fires, and what it's well known. I mean, we've done a lot of research right there that majority of fires are human caused. Now, some of them are campfires, some are industrial accidents. So that a good chunk, maybe majority of those human caused, are accidental or negligence. But there is a significant number in British Columbia, whether it be in Okanagan, all over, that are human cause, that they are arson, and that so there hasn't really been the consequences. So brought the legislation to introduce it. It's been promoted by our party, but hasn't been taken up by the Liberals, to bring much more stricter penalties for those that are causing arson, forest fires, because the consequences, we see it. As far as forest fires, even you're living down here from forest fires, your health, people got breathing issues or asthma or visibility or tourism, or impacts the safety, it impacts businesses, loss of timber, all sorts of things. So that was one part of this. And the second piece of this was going to freedoms, was focusing on places of worship. So there were about over 100 churches that have been burnt down, and I did. Yeah. So there's over 100. Actually, I did a order paper questions to the government, and they came back with over 400. So there's also synagogues and there's also mosques. So that would be bringing in minimum sentencing, significant minimum sentences for a place of worship, because it doesn't just it's not just a building; it's a people. It's
racially motivated.
It's racially motivated, but it's also religiously motivated, and the impact is actually national. So when you burn down a church, or if you're vandalizing a mosque or a synagogue, it goes much broader, and so bringing significant consequences, that resonated with my party, but also the other parties also. And so it's not law also, and sometimes what I find is that like, for example, the Liberals say, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea," but they don't put any teeth in it. Okay, and so that's a bill that I brought forward last term and introduced it, and I'm sure we reintroduced again this time. Whether or not it goes all the way, we'll see. It will. If my party had got elected, then it would have become legislation, but we're in opposition right now.
Good luck with that, Bill.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll be right back.
Dad, can I go to McDonald's for a Happy Meal?
Sure, Lincoln, I'd love to.
I love them because they have a toy, fries, and a burger, and some chocolate milk.
All right, let's go.
Okay, Dad. All kids love them because they're so delicious. Yum, yum, yum. And back to the show.
You mentioned at the community picnic last weekend how much you care about homelessness and the fentanyl crisis. How would you address the lack of emergency 24-hour beds and long-term treatment centers?
Well, I think a lot of the homelessness is mental health issues, and I think that when we close down, I think it's Riverview. Yeah, that we need to be able to have a place for institutional. That's important for their protection and for the protection of society. We've come to accept this. It is what's happening. just I think last week before, we had 2 overdoses right in front of my office and 2 right in the back of my office, and we've had to, be involved in helping revive, and so it's bad. It's right here, and this should not be. It should not be. Not be. Period.
Yeah.
And you are in emergency services, so it's like, I've talked to different ones, and they're so frustrating because you bring it, you revive somebody, and then the same day or later on that week, the same person. It's like, and there seems to be, and I'll say this clearly, there seems to be an industry, a whole advocacy group of keeping people. I don't know. Okay, I think it is compassionate of just being able to provide these drugs. Well, you know what? What would be compassionate is seeing people come out of that. We support supports. We conservative support treatment and recovery, and also serious crimes for serious time for serious crimes. And I mentioned at the picnic that I had taken a private vacation with my wife, and we went to Asia. Went to actually Japan and South Korea. I didn't see one person. And the biggest city in the world, Tokyo, didn't see one person. 35 million people there, or in Seoul or other cities of 1 million plus people, or I've been to Europe. You go all over, and maybe some of the American states are a little bit similar, but you know what? So it's not a physiological thing. It's a matter of our own policies and what we've allowed to happen. And so we've got to make it. We can't just more of the same. Is just you're going to get more and more. We've had, I don't know how many people have died from overdoses in the past. Since they've been in power, I believe it's over 40,000, 50,000 people.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's
It's crazy. I mean, you go step outside right now. I'd almost bet you there's somebody that is there's someone that's maybe overdosing, or they're in the fentanyl position.
100%. I could show you where they're.
And let's say something.
Yeah.
This actually this. It's not. It's terrible for them. It's terrible for our society, and it's a real drag because we live here in Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows and Mission, which represent also in a beautiful part of the world. Just a fantastic. I mean, second to none. And yet, you have this happening. It's just like it's just depressing, and it impacts. And then but it isn't just the visual; it's the amount of crime. I talked to police officers, and I've went to thousands of people doors during the election, and police officers almost 100%, and honestly are supportive of us because we're serious. We're serious about crime, minimum sentencing, and if there's serious crime, they need to do the time. Our prisons, people think they're full. They're empty. Our prisons are empty, and I'm not saying there is a place for prison. There is a place for incarceration. In Vancouver, I think 2 years ago, or maybe it was last year, same 40 people were apprehended 5,000 times. 5,000 times. Like, it's just like, and that's just ones that are caught. And the same thing here. Like, it's just, the prolific offenders need to be behind bars. They're not doing crime when they're behind bars.
Well, the reason why I brought it up is because, my coworkers and I deal with it 24/7.
Yeah.
So there's a massive focus in this province, and I would say probably nationally, that's mainly harm reduction focused. And when I'm dealing with someone who is maybe high on fentanyl, or maybe I, Narcan them, bag them, bring them back, and they ask me, like, I want help. Where can I get some help? I have nowhere to take them.
Terrible.
So the only place I can go is to take them to the hospital. But ER is not the place to bring them because the nurses are busy. They're going to be, brought into a waiting room. Most likely they're going to leave, right? And then they're back on the street, and then they might want to be, sober, but, 6 hours, maybe 48 hours later, the addiction overrides their sense of wanting. Like, the white knuckle thing doesn't work, right?
No.
So that's where, I was just sort of asking the question, because there's a massive gap between like where I can bring someone to actually get help, almost like a detox center in Vancouver, where you can bring someone that's, having alcohol issues and withdrawal, but there's nowhere really to bring anyone that's doing like hard drugs, whether that's crack or meth as well. And it's like, I talk to so many parents and so many different people too, that kids are involved with, and it's almost on the tip of everyone's tongue, right? They see that it's a huge problem. They see that nothing's really being done. and they see that the numbers are just going up. You know what I mean? And I'm seeing it younger people too are getting.
And kids, like I know a number of people have died, and sometimes they're there's one young woman, and she had a baby, and she attended my niece's wedding, and I think one of the bridesmaids, and her boyfriend just banged like that. They I think maybe the first time or second time they had some fentanyl laced right there, and they both died like that. So there's or oftentimes there's no second chances. And I've been at the doorsteps, and I've actually wept with different parents at the doorsteps that have lost their children.
Yeah.
So this is terrible. It's terrible. And I know it's just terrible. So I think that. So I believe needs to be provided right away, and I think we also need to take it a lot more seriously as far as the dealers. Crack down on them. Like they need to be serious time for that. There was a bust in I don't know, half a year ago or so anymore, and it was in the Okanagan by up in the Okanagan,
Right
north, right there. So I've been there many times. Anyways, but there was a bust, and there was enough fentanyl that was caught enough to kill 90 million people. That's how much the dosages were, and so it's
I know,
and that's crime. That's another issue. That's a big issue. Yeah. There's just not the consequences. It's like, I mean, I talked to one police officer at the doorstep, and he says, "Why do I even bother arresting them?" He told me that. He says they're just
it's a revolving door. They just get let out right afterwards.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry, that is wrong.
Right.
And I believe that a government number one priority is safety. National safety and public safety, and making sure people are safe. Okay, and then those are it's key things, and then obviously health and others, and one of our priorities. I mean, the session is beginning next week, and one of the Conservatives focuses will also, and a number of them. One will be the cost of living, crime, job loss, and immigration. But those are some important things. We've found also that I'm the caucus chair for the Conservative members of Parliament in British Columbia. There's 19 of us. So caucus chair, that means caucus. When you say that, that's who forms all the MPs. So most of us were in the Victoria area, and we visited the different businesses with forestry and fishing and numerous others, and we're all the way everywhere across. It's like the regulations and the taxation and the drag. Everything is so slow. Everything is getting harder and harder, and that has led to basically jobs. People not having the opportunities that they have, not having the investments, not having the prosperity that Canadians have enjoyed in the past. Maybe or that we could be enjoying right now. So it's like that's something I'm fighting for.
Yeah, I love that. Mr. Dalton, you're so generous with your time. For my last question, what is the most exciting thing you're looking forward to as you return to Ottawa to begin the fall session?
Well, I'm looking forward to meeting with all my colleagues. Yeah. And we have a message. Okay. I think we have some real policies that can be transformative as far as the Conservative Party. We would have won that last election hands down. We had basically some outside help for the Liberals, and that was Donald Trump and his involvement in calling Canada, saying he'd annex the 50, make Canada 50%. And I think that got a lot of people, including me. It was very upsetting.
Yeah, it really hit home.
And everything. I mean, I was served in the military. My dad was raised up in a military home, and I've always been, real fond of the States and relationships. That really grated. And so I think people are now, realizing that you can't take everything he says literally, and I don't think people didn't take it. They just thought it was very
It
rude.
was very insulting.
It's very insulting, and it's like
yeah.
unnecessary and aggravating. So really got a lot of people's backs up. But I would say that the young people, and those that were, I found that areas that have not been very strong supportive of conservatives in the past, very strong, because those that were actually feeling the cost of living pinch, those that were wanting opportunities, a future, and all that, were flocking to us. But we did find a lot of the boomer age, my age, going more, that they felt maybe more financially secure, and saying, okay, listen, Mark Carney seems kind of respectable, and he seems to be, got experience, and so they thought, well, he'll be better at this and at handling Trump. And what we've seen, and I've even publicly, I've been saying, okay, let's just see what's happening. And I'm seeing a lot of words, but not seeing a lot of actions, not seeing a lot of differences. And that is concerning. And so we have a message. Pierre didn't win his seat. It was essentially why Pierre Poilievre didn't win his seat, mainly because of the collapse.
One in Alberta.
Yeah, one in Alberta. Yeah. So he'll be back, which will be great to have. And so, in this riding, I got more votes than I've ever got. I went from 19,000 to 31,000, but so a big increase.
Yeah.
But because of the collapse of the NDP, the Liberals actually were they got it was actually pretty tight.
It feels like there's an opportunity for a lot more cooperation with Carney and the Liberals and the Conservatives this coming fall. It's just from an outsider's point of view, kind of looking at it. Do you think that is true?
Well, we will cooperate.
Yeah.
And we will support legislation that works well for Canada. But our role is the official opposition. So that's to add value. Okay, we add value. We add other perspectives. We will. So they will bring in things, and quite often you'll see if you look at votes, we will oftentimes will support different legislation, but we'll bring amendments. So we will bring amendments, and we're not. He's not going to just say, "Oh, the words aren't going to cut it." It's the action we need to see. So we will. Yeah. That is something we will be doing. We'll be looking at the budget. What's happening there. I visited, along with the rest of BC Caucus, the CFB Esquimalt. It's Canada's
Pacific Naval Fleet.
Pacific Naval Fleet. And so, we've talked about, we have a lot of emerging threats with China and Russia and elsewhere, North Korea. And we need to make sure that we're ready. We're not ready. We've got great sailors, seamen, airmen, personnel, I should say, but it's under, their numbers are down, and so and equipment, they need better equipment. And when I lived in Europe, when Dad was stationed there, we had actually the fourth strongest air force in the world, and a fleet. We were really top notch, but things have really deteriorated. So I'm not saying we have to be, we're not looking to take over the world, but we need to make sure that we're prepared.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll do, and looking forward to that.
Fantastic. Mark, thank you so much for guiding me this time with you this afternoon and allowing the people and I a chance to get to know you better. Blessings to you and your family. And again, thank you for your time and being so open and genuine with me today. I was so privileged to interview Mark in his office today, the day before he leaves for Ottawa. He had every excuse in the world to say no to the interview. I'm not a journalist. I've got 10 followers on Instagram. He had no idea the types of questions I was going to ask, and I'm not a member of the Conservative Party. And yet, despite all of that, he said yes. I think that speaks to his character and that he really wants to make a positive difference in the lives of every Canadian. I want to thank Mark and his team for being so gracious to me as I prepared for the interview. It really helped me relax. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Please like, follow, or comment below. I appreciate every single one of you for taking the time to listen to the 331 podcast. I hope you have an amazing day. Bye for now.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.